Right, there's no presentations of petitions, so this brings us to the Community Board monthly reports. First up is Coastal Burwood. So welcome to Paul McMahon and Deputy Chair Jackie Simons to the table. Morena. Morena. Yes. Oh, right, thanks.
Tēnā koutou, te koro mātua tuarua me ngā kai konihira. Mo ruru koe mō te whiwhi I tā mātou ripoata. So we just have a few highlights we'd like to draw your attention to. We have the Design Jam, which took place on the 14th and 16th of June at the Aranui Community Centre and involved 19 children, around 10 to 14, from St James Primary School, Te Kura o Hato Hemi and Chisnellwood Intermediate, incidentally, which is having its roll reduced. Haata Community Campus hosted a separate session in late June. Students highlighted areas of the community they'd like to see improvements in and what areas they saw as concern, as well as what they loved about their community. Great asset-based community development there. These areas were then explored through art and drawing and model making into presentable ideas and projects. So these ideas and projects from Design Jam will become part of a community event, enabling further feedback and iteration from the local community. This is a kind of engagement reaching people who don't spend time on the council website or coming to council meetings, so people not like anybody here, that we would love to see more of. If we're going to rebuild trust in the council, then we need to see more of this kind of thing, and I really just want to congratulate staff for their excellent work. And we also had our Community Service and Youth Awards and Edible and Sustainable Garden Awards on the 22nd of June. We hosted our combined awards ceremony at the South Brighton Community Centre. Over 50 people were in attendance on the day, with a total of 22 receiving a certificate in their gardens and 2 councillors doing speeches. Volunteerism is the lifeblood of a free and civil society, and the amount our community volunteers give back is absolutely incredible. In terms of fiscal responsibility, if you want to talk about fiscal responsibility, council gets back far more than it spends funding community groups. There was a study a while back done looking at the return. I forget what it was, but it was incredibly high. We really do get value for money. And next we have we were privileged to be able to be at the opening of the second stage of the Pukeko Centre, a multi-purpose sport and recreation space. Was opened by the Mayor on the 15th of June with supporters and funders of the project attending the event. The project's taken many years and has had its share of challenges to overcome, but with generosity and determination, a team of volunteers and supporters have persevered. So the centre is now open for community use by existing and new user groups: Parklands Bowling Club, Parklands Rugby Club, Parkview School, as well as for team indoor training and a variety of other users. It even has indoor basketball court. Jackie.
So who would have thought that a private plan change 15 years ago would have enabled a container storage facility to now wreak havoc on the people of Woolston, with continued noise, shaking of their houses, and a decline in property values. We have a situation around the residential industrial interface that impacts our ward, particularly in Linwood, but also other parts of our board area, whereby we have heavy industry being built in very close proximity to residential dwellings and causing disruption. And we just see it from one event to another event to another event. So I just wish to stress the importance of the work being done around the residential industrial interface and ask you to ensure that the changes are fit for purpose and actually future-proof our people living on that fringe, so that we don't have this heavy industry being allowed to be literally just outside their back door.
And that photo up there is from a car crushing facility which is on the residential industrial fringe. I've made a complaint through our governance staff about stormwater runoff. and we really need to have better rules for the residential industrial interface, and be. It's incredibly frustrating to see stormwater runoff coming from these kinds of facilities too. The organics processing plant is still open and it still stinks, and just wanted to remind you of that. We're not taking our eye off the ball, and I'm sure you're not too. And finally, as someone who's come back from being on a community board and come back, I've noticed that we don't have a lot of oversight now of our parks, and there's planting plans and that kind of thing happening, renewal programs where we just kind of get notification, but we don't actually get any say, and key stakeholders aren't being involved, key stakeholders such as the Waimata Food Commons aren't being involved in the planting plans and things like that. And I just think I just wanted to draw your attention to that. So when we come to a delegations review, it would be good to look at the community board role with respect to parks. Happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. No, we're out of time. Thanks, Paul. It's brought you up to there. Just from me, did you report that stormwater issue with the car crushing plant through the Environment Canterbury Pollution Hotline?
The governance staff passed it on.
And has anything been done?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard back yet.
Be quite good to know, because they should have filters there. There must be an incredible amount of contaminants coming out of those car bodies.
Yeah, and there's actually you can't see it in the photo up there, but they've actually deliberately, they have a hose there washing it. So there's water coming down, and they have a hose there which is designed to wash the rest of it down into the stormwater system. Could we please get someone from our team to follow that up with Environment Canterbury? That's really helpful. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Jackie.
Okay, thank you
very much.
All right, I'd like to welcome Te Pātaka or Rakai Hautu Banks Peninsula Community Board Chairperson Ruben Davidson, please.
Good morning. It's my final report.
Penelope, yeah.
Yes, my final report to council as chair. But don't worry, it's not because all of our terms are up. It's because I'll be. It doesn't go quite that quickly. We can still do lots of good things. But I will be stepping down as chair at midday today, remaining on the board, and really looking forward to seeing who from within our community board in Banks Peninsula steps up into that chair. Jumping next to decisions made under delegation, it has been a busy month. The Littleton Arts Festival was supported with a grant of $2,000. It's even bigger this year, really strong program featuring anything from dinosaur bingo through to bedtime stories for grown-ups. So that continues through to this weekend. So if you haven't got across to any of those events yet, I recommend you do. The Littleton Recreation Centre Trust was also supported with a wall mural by a local artist, Amber Moke, which will go into Manua Kawhiu, which is the name that's been gifted from Ngāti Wheke to that space. And it's not all Littleton, also Little River received a grant towards a heat pump replacement to ensure that the Rec and Sports Club is warm and dry. We've made some progress on community board plan priorities as well. So antisocial road users, we really can't underestimate the negative impacts that this has for our smaller and remote communities right across the peninsula. There's been a really, really good multi-agency meeting, well organised by the local MP and her team, and really well attended. That's an excellent starting point to look at what support is available to address that issue, and it's always going to require a really joined up approach. There was also some work underway on the Hunters Road outline development plan, with the project team established for that site at 27 Hunters Road, which is the council-owned site in Diamond Harbour, and really looking at the future use potential for that large parcel of land. Community engagement, it was a big meeting and month for us on community engagement. I don't think that there's been a board meeting this year where the issue of the impact of cruise ships on particularly Littleton hasn't been raised by our community. We have a saying often quoted across community Facebook pages that Littleton is a working port. It is, and the feedback we're getting from local business owners and the community is that it isn't working with the volume of cruise ship visitors it's received in the last season, and we are led to believe that that will be even more visitors in the next season. The concerns that were raised at this meeting weren't around the environmental impacts. Those have been raised and continue to be raised by local people and by people across Christchurch. But these were really about the immediate impacts on the local community, the local infrastructure, and on local businesses. These business owners voiced that they don't feel that they have a voice, hence having to bring it to community board. And some of them said that they literally won't be in business if they have another cruise season anything like the last, because of the negative impacts it has on their ability to trade. So we really do owe it to these communities and to our city to manage these immediate impacts of cruise visitors. Runanga engagement, we had a really enriching pōwhiri and board visit to Te Wheke Marae at Rapaki, which was to explore future opportunities for local partnerships, and that was a really productive and fruitful conversation. And on our community focus, the community board also visited Wakaroa, Pigeon Bay, to view the Kukupā hostel site up close. It's looks a little bit like something out of a horror film in those photos, but it has a lot of potential and is a really amazing facility and space to explore. We also had a police briefing from the local team, which had a really strong focus, and I'd like to note the excellent community engagement and access work that's been carried out by our new local sergeant, Anna Partridge. Her work in this space is absolutely exemplary, and we get a lot of positive feedback about the great work that she's doing to have those conversations and to join things up locally, because that's how good policing will work. So there's a real commitment to community there. And finally, Tauriti 2, which is an exercise program for older residents, which is starting at Manua Kawhiu, which was also where the mural is going. That'll be starting this month. We just wanted to give that one a mention. And I just want to say thank you. It's been really enjoyable being chair of the Banks Peninsula Community Board, and I've enjoyed these opportunities to come in and share what we're doing with the wider council.
Kia ora. Look, I'm sorry we don't have time for questions. I know Tyrone and Tyler both had one, but we need to keep moving. But I'd like to thank you.
Oh, it was just a question for staff, Pauline, sorry.
Yeah, we haven't got time. Sorry, just send it through, Tyler.
Okay.
I'd just like to thank you, Ruben, for doing a wonderful job as chair, as you have, and for these really clear, concise, and really interesting and proactive reports that you've been bringing as well. So all the best.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Moving right along, Waihoro, Spraden Cashmere, Deputy Chair, Keir Leslie. Morena, welcome, Keir.
Morena. Good morning. Thank you all for making the time. I'm afraid that Callum is unavailable, so you are stuck with the slightly less good representative from the board today.
I know the feeling.
So, what were we? So, a reasonably, I guess this has been a month where we've spent a lot of time out talking to the community, and we've had a few issues come through. So this could take the chance to, I guess, bring some of those issues to this table. This is, I guess, a reasonably small issue, but in many ways it connects with some bigger issues. So the Francis Reserve in Westmoreland is a small neighbourhood reserve, and there's a little footbridge that runs across Cashmere Stream. And one of the things is if you are biking to Cashmere High or heading into town, that's probably the route you'll take to avoid the Cashmere-Penruddock intersection, which is particularly difficult if you are walking or biking. Unfortunately, the stream needs replaced, and it's going through a process of being replaced. One of the challenges, I guess, is that more and more we're going to see as we start to prioritise active transport, we're going to see these kind of assets which sit in parks but have really big transport implications being part of our transport network for people using active modes. So this has kind of been one. We've had a couple of others in the board area over the years. In Spraydon, we've had a couple over near Domain Terrace, and where we've had similar issues. So just to kind of, I guess, bring this to the council's attention is somewhere where it would be great if we could get different departments having a really joined up approach to these assets, so that from the community perspective, it's all one council and it's all one team. So that's great. We've had, obviously with the wet weather, we've been getting some traffic about the difficulty where we have people parking on riverbanks. This is a problem along the whole Apawaho River, all the way up from around Princess Margaret, all the way down to through Woolston. And obviously there's a range of negative effects, but one of the big ones is sedimentation running into the river, which has a lot of harmful effects on the river. There's a range of ways this can be managed, but it is quite tricky because you have to get the regulatory settings right to enable no parking to be set up. There's a kind of default assumption that if there's no curb, you can just pull over and park on the verge. That's probably appropriate in most places, but probably not along the riverbanks. So we probably, this is something that could be great if council could look at making sure those regulatory settings, whether there's the right bylaws, whether there's the right regulation, whether there's the right signage. Then this is this was a really cool presentation that came to the board from the Manuka Rangatahi Ropu. So a group of young people in Addington, Tane, Dante, Finn, Jeremiah, Tyrone, and assisted by Wilby Lahole, who they live in Addington. Some of them are OCHT tenants. And they came along to talk to the board about wanting a half-court at Cornelius Reserve next to Manuka Cottage. And I guess I just wanted to mihi to them for the presentation, which was one of the best presentations I've seen at a community board. It was really well prepared. They've done an amazing amount of work, an amazing amount of outreach already, and it really upheld the mana of the Addington community. So that was awesome to see. So I just wanted to take this chance at this table to mihi to them. Finally, we have the South Library consultation has closed by now. We're obviously really looking forward to seeing what the feedback that we get from the community is. It's really clear the existing building is deeply loved, and there's a huge passion to retain what's great about that building. One of the challenges is that the reality is that a rebuild is almost certainly going to be the best way to do that, and continuing to take the community on that journey of how do we keep what's great about the building and the site while being, I guess, cognizant of the engineering realities of that building. So we're really excited to see how the design team responds to that feedback. And finally, just to say, obviously you have the Safer Speeds decision today. I know that we've had the board's presented a full submission on that previously, but just to take this chance again to encourage you to be really brave and lead for our communities in these decisions. Slowing speeds where appropriate is one of the best tools for making streets safer, reducing emissions, and particularly keeping our tamariki safe on the streets. So just to really say that this is something that we would really encourage you to take a lead on. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent presentation. Thank you, Kia. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. So, Waimaro, Fendleton, Waimari Herwood, welcome Bridget Williams and Deputy Chair Jason Middlemiss. No, it's not Jason.
It's not Jason.
Marianne.
Marianne.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa, everyone. So, to get us started, just want to take you all through some of the decisions that we've made under delegation for this month. So there's a whole range from approving road names for new subdivisions to the installation of new lighting for sports fields, some tree removals and replacement planting plans, and also bus stops, a range of discretionary response fund applications, and also youth development funds. So thanks for being the clicker pilot. So last year, our community development advisors engaged with community groups in our area in regards to any training or speakers they would be interested in to help build their capacity. There was a great response, and so far sessions have been held on dealing with mental health issues, conflict resolution, and keeping safe online, including spotting and avoiding scams. Another issue that was identified was funding and how to do good applications. Our local advisors recently organised a funding hui for the groups in our area with over 50 people attending. Funding advisors from Rata Foundation and the Department of Internal Affairs joined our local community governance staff to speak to the group about the various funding schemes available and the funding priorities for each of the different funders. They also provided good advice and tips about what to include in their applications, and we had great feedback from the participants saying how useful it was. The team is now looking at making this an annual event. And then moving on to our friends of Crosbie Park, Working Bee. So as part of the ongoing Friends of Crosbie Park initiative, 20 parents and preschoolers from the Russley Play Centre turned up to Crosbie Park for the monthly Working Bee, which includes watering and maintaining the plants, which were put in as part of a community planting day last year. Our local community advisor, Karen, and our park ranger, Annalise, coordinated the Working Bee, and we're pleased to be able to gift the children with new watering cans and specially designed toddler gardening gloves. A huge shout out to Terra Viva Gardening Centre for providing these to us at a very discounted price. The kids absolutely loved it, and it'd be fair to say that the ground probably received a great deal more watering than the plants, but there are a number of Working Bees still planned for the rest of the year, which involve the wider community and Notice, a local community group dedicated to improving the conditions of Island Stream, which runs through Crosbie Park. There's also 2 more planting days planned before the end of the year, and we also want to recognise the amazing mahi that these guys do, so we've actually nominated them for a Keep Christchurch Beautiful Award. And then moving on to the University of Canterbury Junior Athletics Club, Fendleton Park.
I'm going back.
I'll take you through it. So as part of the public forum at our last board meeting, Michael Henstock from the University of Canterbury Junior Athletics Club updated the board on their move to Fendleton Park and the successful season they have had. The club has received very positive feedback from members about the location, and they are now looking to move to the next stage of installing permanent structures on the park, including long jump, high jump, and throwing circle facilities. The club has developed a good relationship with Bowls Canterbury, who are located next to the park, and have provided the club with storage space and allows them to use their facilities for meetings. Our board is fully supportive of the club's plans and are keen to work with the council's parks unit to progress the installation of the permanent structures. So again, that word, collaborative, pops up. And that is our monthly report. Thank you so much for your attention.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you very much. The planting day photos are just really lovely, aren't they?
Yeah.
Good on you for getting out there and doing that. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Waipapa, Papua New Guinea Central Community Board, one of the better ones, I hear. Chairperson Emma Norrish and Deputy Chair Simon Britton. Welcome. I'm only kidding. We're all equal.
Nā koutou katoa. Thanks for that, Pauline. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. We're just going to give you a quick rundown on some decisions that we've made at our June meeting, as well as some other exciting things happening in our area. So our decisions last month included a large number of discretionary response fund allocations, which you'll see there. It's great to be able to help out some hard-working community groups in our area, and you'll see from the list that it's a very diverse range of groups, which was good.
Cool. Last month we also approved a road name for a development on Philpotts Road and had another full slate of public forums from members of the public, and again we're continuing to see strong engagement from our community, and shifting our time this term has really helped us with that. Just highlighting a couple there, Dame Sue Bagshaw came to speak to us about the Youth Hub Trust and progress on construction of the Youth Hub. Something that came out of that will perhaps be teased out a little bit more was a request from Sue for the board or council to consider some support for that project in the form of supporting the plantings that are required as part of the landscape plan, so we'll take that on board. and give it some thought. Sue's always very happy to receive financial support as well, of course. A couple of presentations as well in our public forum around cycleways, cycle routes, and some encouragement from both of those for the board to be considering secondary connections as the MCR network gets built out, just looking at what else we can do to make the network be more complete and continue to cater for that interested but concerned group.
These are examples of a couple of things that we've been doing out in the community this last month. We had the Neighbourhood Trust AGM, which was fantastic. It was really great to hear as part of that, they had 3 staff members up there just talking really openly about their jobs and the challenges and some of the stories they were able to share, so that was really cool. And we also had our community liaison meeting held in St Albans, which was great to get people from community organisations along to just have a general chat and network, and there was a lot of conversation around food resilience and the work that all of those groups are doing in that space, so that was really good to be able to talk about.
We've had a couple of planting days in our board area since we were last here, one in Shirley at the end of May. So we've spoken before about the Shirley Birdsong Trail, which was a concept pitched to us last term to the Papanuianis board to support the return of native bird life in the McFarlane Park area. So it's been another great turnout, and thanks to Council Park staff, Shirley Community Trust and members of the public that supported and participated in that one.
And another local planting project is the Papanui Bush, which you've heard us speak about a number of times before. The latest part of this project is the pathway to go through the bush, and it forms a loop track around, which is also accessible from the Braintree Wellness Centre, which sits to the side there. Our board contributed some funding for this, as well as Papanui Rotary, and I'd also like to give a big shout out to the park rangers and also recreation services, who the path was meant to finish at the fence there, but they actually did a bit extra from their budgets and made it, created a link from there to the footpath, so that will hopefully draw more people in.
That was followed by a planting day at the reserve. Another 1,000 native plants have been put in, acknowledging Councillor Henstock, also Councillor Peters. Thank you for participating in that. Papanui Rotary heavily involved in organising it. I think I saw some other Rotarians there as well. The Mayor, of course, and our local MP planting a coronation remu. So, yeah, really strong turnout. Support from Papanui High School as well at that day.
And finally, one of our priorities in our community board plan is engagement with the community around what will happen at Shirley Community Reserve, the site of the old Shirley Community Centre. We've kicked this off with our local governance staff visiting 2 of the local primary schools, Shirley Primary and Shirley Intermediate. They had a couple of really good sessions getting feedback from the tamariki about what they would like to see in that space, and we as a board will be receiving that information. And there's also a youth basketball tournament, 3-on-3 tournament happening tomorrow at the reserve to get that demographic as well. And then we're opening next week engagement with the wider community about what will happen there, so that's really exciting. And that's us.
Excellent. Thank you. That's a really good report. Thank you very much. The Papanui Bush is going from leaps to bounds, isn't it? Considering it's hasn't been going that long, so you can really see the growth every time you go there. It's incredible. We'll be full of birds before we know it.
That's it.
Thank you. So welcome for Waipuna Hallswell Hornby Rickerton, Chairperson Helen Broughton and Deputy Mari Polisco. Morena. Wait for Helen to come down. These are great pictures, aren't they? Really lovely.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and councillors.
No, I'm just the deputy.
Deputy Mayor and councillors. And thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We're in the stage of a new governance manager, and just sitting here, I think we need to change the orientation of our reports that I have discussed with our new manager. If I could just start off, and then I'll let Marie have half the time. One of the things that has been concerning the board in terms of time is Kāinga Ora. And I think you've probably all been invited to a meeting at Riccarton with Megan Woods on Friday, where they're opening a new complex. And that went down really well in terms of the consultation. So that went well. We've had the issue at Copper Ridge, which you're probably aware of. I'll just skim over that. But that took residents by surprise, where a private developer was handing over the development to Kāinga Ora. And we're going to have a now roundtable meeting with the Horsville reps, the Kāinga Ora, and Horsville reps, Kāinga Ora, and some staff, obviously, and also their staff. So it's us and us. Sorry, I haven't expressed this. It's us, Kāinga Ora reps, and residents. And we're just going to see if there's any minor tweaks that can be done, or if, in fact, we can just say, well, this is all we can do and finish the issue, if you like, from our perspective. They're still reasonably angry. The other Kāinga Ora is the Quaif's land, and you're all aware of that. That has passed over 2 weeks ago into the hands of Kāinga Ora. It was land signalled 2 years ago in the council's possibility of sale of surplus land, and we haven't heard any complaints about that. So that's gone very smoothly. I noticed you passed a large project, the Cycleway South Express. There is a section there that wasn't there, and that's the section that's causing a lot of debate. It's got 5 roads leading into one intersection. It's very dangerous. And at present we've consulted, or we haven't consulted, we've consulted with a small group of residents, and then they've consulted further. So that's still to come through. And at this stage we're going to have further discussions because there's no clear path through that. And obviously in Riccarton and Hornby, the 6 stories planned in Plan Change 13 and 14, and it's time now for people to either cross-submit or, in fact, do a first submission, but it's cross-submitting. So that's me, Marie.
Right.
Thank you.
Left me 1 minute to do this. I'll try to breeze through this. First off is the decisions the board has made under delegation. The straightforward to the Orion transformer easement to convey electricity over Kyle Park and to the adjoining Matatiki Hornby Center. And then in the last 5 years, the Conservation Volunteers New Zealand has been using Patterson House Holswell Quarry as their base. It's formerly known as the Holswell Quarry Manager's House. Their lease expires this year, so the board has given them another 5-year extension. Now, the Airport Noise Liaison Committee is operated by the Christchurch International Airport Limited as a requirement under the Christchurch District Plan. And I note that they already have 2 board members from the Waimairo, Pendleton, Waimairi, Harewood Community Board. Now, in their March meeting, apparently there were complaints from Holswell, Wigram, and Rollston areas. So upon request, or they have requested that representatives from the Holswell, Hornby, Riccarton Community Board be nominated. And so the board has nominated Councillor Mark Peters and Community Board member Debbie Mora to that Airport Noise Liaison Committee with Councillor Sarah Brunton as an alternate. Then we have their approved 3 youth development fund applications, 1 of the ground fund application, and 10 discretionary response fund allocations. The next one is big shout out to the staff for initiating this, and now we have the Hornby Youth Council. We already have the Huritini Youth Council. Now we also have Hornby Youth Council. They had their inaugural meeting, and which was held with students from Gilberthorpe School, South Hornby School, and Hornby High School. The next one is the Oak Development Trust. They had their Community Cafe initiative celebrate its 10th birthday anniversary. Common Ground Cafe, it's called. And we'd also like to acknowledge that the Oak Development Trust have also received the Prime Minister's COVID-19 Response Recognition Award for their service in support of the national COVID response, COVID-19. And the next is the City and Community Development Network Trust. Acknowledge their volunteers as well as their supporters. It runs programs for young people out of their Riccarton and Hornby bases. The trust is based in the former Plunkett Rooms in Waikola Avenue. I think we've used up our time. So,
Is that the end of your presentation?
all right.
Thank you very much. That's great work happening out there, and I really appreciate you coming in to speak to it. Thank you.
Thanks.
So I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for the reports, Melanie and Mark. All those in favour say aye. Aye, opposed. Thank you. We've got a few minutes before the break, so I'm just thinking that we might. Oh, I'm sorry. We just did want to note. You just put that in though, didn't you? Yeah. So we put a note in there, number 2, notes that pursuant to the decision-making authority delegated to community boards, the Waipapa Papanui and his Central Community Board should have considered the parking changes on Gloucester Street and Hereford Street report that was inadvertently heard by Council at its 14th of March 2023 meeting, and the Council apologised for the error. And I think that's something that that board will be pleased to see. So we move now to the Council minutes. So we've got 5, 6, 7 and the Audit and Risk Committee minutes.